Okay, so today I'm going to review with you how to change a fraction into a decimal into a percent. I say we're going to review this because you actually did learn this in 6th grade, so hopefully you remember. Alright, so if I start off with 1/5, does anybody know how to turn a 1/5 into a decimal? How do I do it? Not what is it, but how. Jose? Yeah. So, question is, which number goes inside the division box? 1. What number goes outside? 5. Does 5 go into 1? No. So what do I have to do? Decimal. What else? Add a 0. How many times 5 go into 10? 2. So my decimal is 0.2. So how do you change a fraction to a decimal? You have to divide. Now my next question is, okay, I have my decimal. How do I turn it into a percent? Yes, Kimberly? That's part of it. Don't you move 2 spaces? Yes. So, I like to use the word D. Capital D, E, E, capital P. Now, I like using the word deep because the D stands for decimal and the P stands for percent. So the 0.2, is that a decimal or a percent? Decimal, so I'm going to put it under the D for decimal. Now, how many times do I move the decimal? 2. There's 2 E's, right? So I'm going to move it twice. Now, I want it to be a percent, so I'm going to move it this way. How many times do I move it? Twice. 1 and 2. That gives me my percent. What goes in the empty space? A 0. So what is the percent of 0.2? 20%. It's very easy. Okay, now just finish up the triangle. How do I take 20% and write it as a fraction? How do I make 20% look like 1/5? Joshua? Yeah, what are percents always out of? 100. When you get a test result or do now result or anything, what percent do you always want to see on your paper? 100%, right? Because that's the max. So you take your percent and you write it over 100. Now, does anybody know the tricks about ending with zeros? You can just cross them out. So let's do that. Right on your paper, you're like, oh, that's right. If 2 at a time, the pairs can be crossed out. That's like dividing by 10. Okay, 2 and 10, what can I divide by? Oh, 2, kiddos. What's 2 divided by 2? 1. What's 10 divided by 2? 5. And that's what we're supposed to end with. Do you guys see that? It's easy. And right now we're doing more work than you're going to actually do. We're showing all our work. All right. Let's try a pretty easy one. 3/4. What is the decimal? Good. 0.75. Now, what if you didn't know that? You were supposed to divide, right? 3 goes inside, 4 goes outside. You're writing this down, please. .75, right? Now, how do I change that into a percent? Move it 2 spaces. Remember the word deep. 0.75. I'm going to move it 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. So what's my percent? 75%. what would be your first fraction? How do I change 75% into a fraction? What would be the first fraction? 75 over 100, and then that will equal 3/4. We're okay? Good. All right. I'm going to give you a harder one. Huh? Not necessarily with this. 3/8. I want the decimal, and then after the decimal, I want the percent. I'm pretty sure you don't have 3/8 memorized, so what do you have to do? Divide. I need to see everyone dividing. How many times does 8 go into 30? 3? What's 3 times 8? Can you use your multiplication to figure this out? 100%. Ha! Percent. Get it? 7, 56, 40, 5. All right. So, sorry for my sloppiness. What is the decimal? Point 375. 375. All right. Now, for my percent, there's 3 numbers here, but how many times will you move the decimal? 2 times. Always 2 times, no matter how many numbers you have. So therefore, what's my percent? Say it one more time. 37.5%. Because, and I'll show it to you, if it's 0.375, the word deep, 2 E's, so you move it 1, 2, and that's it. Even though there's 3 numbers, you're only going to move it twice. Okay? Alright. Now, what if I actually start you with a percent? Go backwards. So what if I start you at 17%? What's the fraction? What's the decimal? So write it down. It's pretty easy. Alright, 17%. What are percents always out of? 100. So it would be what? Can you simplify 17 over 100? Nope. You're done. Now, the word deep. 17%. So that goes underneath the P because it's a percent. 17%. Now, here's a tricky question. Where is the decimal in 17%? At the end, in the back. Don't put it in the front. Don't put it in the middle. If there's no decimal, it's always in the back. Alright? So that's our percent. But what do I want? I want a decimal. So how many times do you move it? 2, because there's 2 E's. And which way do I go? To the left, because now I want a decimal. 1, 2. So it's 0.17. Get it? Okay. Alright. What if I give you the decimal 0.02? What's the percent? What's the fraction? Try it out. Alright, the easiest one to do is the percent. At least that's what I think. 2%. And it is, what are percents out of? 100. So it's 2 out of 100. What do I divide 2 and 100 by? By 2. You should all be writing this down. If I'm writing, you're writing. No excuses. What's 2 divided by 2? 1 over. Okay? So let's go back to your do now that I had you skip. Double check your work. Alright, here's my percent. 43%. What would be my fraction of 43%? Yeah, what are percents out of? 100. So it would be 43 out of 100. What would be my decimal? Alright, now this one's tricky. 0.9. What would be my percent? Because you move it twice and fill in it. So it's 90%. What would be my first fraction? 90 over 100. What do I do with those zeros? Cross them out. I'm left with 3 over 25. Yeah, here's a trick. Instead of dividing, you set it equal to 100. So it's times 4, and that's actually easier. I would do this whenever possible. So when your denominators are nice denominators, I would multiply by, what did you guys say? 4 multiplied by 4. So it's 12. Alright, so it's 12 out of 100. So what does that mean? Where do we get this 4 from? You're trying to get 100. So you have 3 over 25, and you're trying to get 100 because percents are out of 100. So then, kind of like when we're doing proportions, you're like, how do I go from 25 to 100? And if you know quarters, you know it's times 4. 4 quarters is 100. Good. All right, let's move on.